Welcome to Outside of the Classroom. Education is important, but not that bullshit, abstract, and theoretical education. You want useful, relevant, and actionable lessons that will help you succeed in life. So that's what we do. It's your boy Pham, your host, and now let's hack your education together. Welcome to Outside of the Classroom. Today we have Nina Boyd, part of the founding team of WayUp, or formerly known as Campus Job. Nina, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, Nina, I saw the post on how you hired students to rebrand yourself from Campus Job to WayUp, which was so cool. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it was a really amazing experience. So, for a while, basically since the beginning, we have had an idea that we wanted to change the name. Campus Job just got super confusing. First of all, we always got called college jobs, campus jobs, and just no one could ever get it right, which is understandable. But we also offer summer internships and full-time jobs. So we figured it was time for just a name change to kind of spruce things up and make sure everyone knew that we offer way more than just jobs during the school year. So first, we had to change the name, and then we
Mhm.
had to change the logo. So we thought we sat in rooms. We were out in California for Y Combinator, and we spent many late nights ripping up post-it notes, brainstorming the perfect name, and we just couldn't come up with something that really, really fit. And so when we had our summer interns, we had two summer interns this summer from both from Cornell, actually, different grades.
Mhm.
And they were in our office for about 3 months. And we said one day, you know what? You guys are students. You guys got hired through a campus job, now way up. You guys go sit in a room with your paper and your pen, and you come up with our new name. And they sat like hunched over for hours in this little room. We have every room in our office is college themed, so they were appropriately in the frat room, which is has a keg for a table and frat paddles all over the wall.
That's a
And
good
they,
environment.
yeah, great for producing the thoughts. So they came out about 2 hours later with an awesome list, and we picked the top three, and WayUp came up as number one, and we were able to get all the social handles and all the website domains, and that was just a really cool experience. And they can walk away knowing that they came up with the name for an entire company. Um,
Yeah, that's insane.
yeah, and then likewise, when we did a new logo, we went straight to the site. We said we need a graphic designer, hopefully someone who's in the New York area so they can come to the office and chat it out. And we had an awesome girl send some samples in from the site that went to NYU. And she came into the office, she sat in a room with Liz, and about 30 minutes later, she did it so quickly. She was like, "All right, here's my designs." And they were all amazing, and we picked this one, and that is how we rebranded everything.
Wow, and they're all students, right?
They're all students, and they all were found through the site.
Wow, incredible. Well, congratulations again, Nina.
Thank
Um,
you.
And my goal with this episode is to help the young, ambitious listener who's really intently like focusing on what we're doing outside of the classroom, land their dream internship. And before we go into like specific and technical questions, I'm just very curious to know like what are some of the biggest mistakes like many young people make when starting their job search?
That's a great question. I think that one of them is to be very narrow minded. I think that everyone has this kind of really specific vision of like my dream career. And let's face it, when you're young and you are either just about to graduate or just graduated, you
Hmm.
may know what you want to do, but there are so many different industries that you could do it in. There are so many jobs that you probably don't even know exist, to be honest, that could fit right into your skill set. So, this is something I did when I graduated too. I would just say like take what you want to do and then just like expand it a little bit and try and think a little bit outside the box of where you might be able to actually find a job that fits that bill.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's something that had WayUp existed when I was in college would have really helped me because we have so many different jobs on our sites for all different types of companies, whether it's a local shop in your college town or whether it's a huge kind of brand name VC company on our site. You can find something in either of those industries, and then you can really kind of figure out from there what it is that you want to do.
And I'm sure like the students that you worked with for the rebranding had no idea that they were gonna actually do that project until it actually came up, huh?
Exactly. And that's why I think getting as much experience under your belt early on will really help you to have that wider vision when you are looking for your first full time job because your first full time job does not have to be the job. You're never going to know until you try, is kind of our motto. Like, I think there's very few people who graduate land the job of their quote unquote dream and stick with it ever since. I think there's a lot of trial and error, and that's where you learn new skills along the way as well.
Yeah, I think that's more common like 40 years ago, back when our parents were working.
Exactly. Exactly. There's actually an interesting statistic that our CEO told us about the other day that for this coming generation of college students, they'll have about 18 jobs in their lifetime. And of course, that doesn't mean 18 career changes, but that means, from maybe starting freshman year in college all the way up until hopefully your retirement.
Mhm.
You'll have that many jobs along the way of just trial and error and internships here and things like that.
Yeah, I love it. And with finding internships, so there's this like 80-20 principle where they say 20% of your efforts yield 80% of your results. And
Hmm.
this is true in almost like all areas of your life. But what are some of the 20% of things that students do or young people do today that yield 80% of the results when looking for these jobs?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say making connections and being open to talking to everyone is a great way to kind of make sure that you're going to keep people in the pipeline for later on. So maybe that you're looking for an internship for the summer and it's December and you meet someone who you connect with and who's in an awesome industry. Get their business card, keep up an email correspondence with them, and always like put your best foot forward because people will remember that. And then even if they're not hiring at the moment,
Mhm.
when they are hiring, they'll remember you at the top of the list because you kind of kept up with your communications with them and you were constantly kind of trying to show that you're interested.
Nice. But there's a funny saying where like to get a job you need experience and to get experience you need a job. and for and for the person who hasn't really done much professionally quite yet, they don't have that access of like getting a business card from your coworkers or a future boss. I guess what's some advice for that person who might be in those shoes?
Totally. It's the common conundrum where it's like entry level job must have 2 years of experience. And it's like, okay, well then where do I start? That's something that we are hoping to kind of solve in a certain way because it is true now. We've asked tons of employers, and there's been some interesting articles that have come out recently that work experience, no matter what it is, kind of gets your foot in the door. So on our site, there's so many internships and part-time jobs for college students. So not necessarily for um, recent graduates, but if you're able to get that under your resume early on, then once you get kind of to that initial application, you'll have something to speak about. If you don't have that experience, which is okay too, talk about your passions. There's nothing more boring than going into an interview and them asking you about something. And maybe you have side projects, but if you kind of just list them off as if they're kind of like check marks on a list, that really kind of falls flat. I think if you have not had great work experience in the past, play up your personality, play up your passions, and just show that you're passionate about something and that you can transfer that over to whatever the job is that you're applying for entails.
Interesting. So showing your passions, but I'm just looking from like a student's point of view. If I were to go in a way up and I find a position that I want to apply for, and they ask me to send a resume or I think in way up you guys have a questionnaire that you guys do that's very unique. Is that right?
We have a student, we call it our student profile pages. And again, we kind of created that with the idea of exactly those students who maybe don't have a resume full of
Mm.
jobs. We have a whole place for any involvements you've done, even bridging back to high school. If you're a part of an organization, if you have a special talent, we even have a little section called like fun fact. So if you have an awesome fun fact, that could be the thing that draws that employer in. If your fun fact is, I went skydiving, maybe that employer also went skydiving, and that is the one little thing that made them click, I want to hire this student.
Interesting. So, say a student goes through WayUp, does the student profile, and has like fun, passionate like answers to these questions, and the employer reaches out for an interview.
Mm-hmm.
How exactly can the student still convey and show that passion while in the interview when applying for jobs?
Totally. I think, and this goes for all interviews, but doing your research and due diligence beforehand is something that sticks out so much. And that's kind of indicative of your passion, even just towards your determination to get this job. If
Hmm.
you spend even an hour beforehand, look up the guy who's interviewing you. If you can't find them, look up the CEO. What have they done in the past? What have they done that you admire? What is the company doing right now that's really great? What have they done in the past that's really great? and take those things and just expand on them. Say, hey, I think I'd be great at this role because I remember the case study that you did in December of last year was just so blah, blah, blah. And those are the types of little hacks that can kind of really convey that you did the diligence to look up your research, and that shows extreme like character and that you're serious about the job.
Interesting. How much research, or like, if you want to research somebody or research for an interview, do you research? I'm assuming you research the company, the people you're interviewing. Like how much research do you put into this?
I would do a lot. Become a professional stalker is what we say. Seriously though,
Professional
you,
stalker.
yeah, don't quote me on that, but
I'm writing it down.
yeah, I think find out what the company is really behind. I mean, it's tough because you can only find out so much. If you go to a company's page and they have a little about me blurb, that's great. But how much does that really tell you about the work they've done in the past, what they're looking to do in the future? And what is the role that you're applying for? What are they really asking of you? If
Mhm.
you can kind of narrow those down and put your own spin on it, I think that every time the employer will definitely notice that instead of you just kind of coming to the interview with the most like stereotypical answers.
Mm-hmm. And I like well, I like what you said about stereotypical answers because many people have like scripted general answers that they memorize that they actually practice in front of a mirror and like memorize this very rigid answer.
Hmm.
Uh, I guess how do you go into an interview and impress the recruiter or HR professional without sounding like a robot?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that my advice there would always be yourself, but obviously within a certain level of appropriateness, a certain level of professionalism. But no one wants to, it's not fun to interview someone who is sitting there looking completely uncomfortable and like they've spent all night in the mirror recording themselves.
Yeah.
Um, and it's similar, think of yourselves on the opposite end. If you're having someone interview you who also has that air about them, it's not going to be a pleasant interview. So it definitely works both ways. I mean, there's such a thing as a bad interviewer as well as a bad interviewee.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, just bring your personality to the table, show that you're in it to win it. And like I said, again, I can't stress how important it is to know that someone's done their research. I interview thousands of college students, and even when they've said, hey, like, congrats on the name change, like something as small as that, that means they spent 5 seconds Googling who we are.
That was me.
Yeah, exactly. But that makes such a difference when you have so many people in the pipeline. It's the little things and attention to detail that pretty much shine through.
That's so interesting because whenever I apply for jobs, I always research like the company, the people. Why don't students like do their due diligence and like actually like a job is like a serious thing. Like internship is like the next step in their career, and it seems like they're not putting a lot of effort into it. Why do you think that is?
That is a great question and that we ask ourselves every day. No, but I think that students do get caught up kind of in what you were just saying. Like you might think that what's so important is that you have the perfect answer to what is your greatest weakness. And yes, it's great to have the answers to those questions, but I think
I work
students,
too hard.
yeah, I'm too good at my job. Um, but no, I think students do get a little caught up in all of that. And then maybe that just slips their mind completely to actually look up the company. It's such a simple piece of advice. And I think it's one that's really overlooked.
You said interview. So before the interview, you want to do research on the company and the people. You want to just be yourself and express how your passion. Is there anything else that we should prepare before that interview?
Let's see. This is a kind of classic one that I think working in startup world is an interesting one. So obviously there is the classic debate of what do I wear to my interview?
Mm,
And this is something we talk about a lot because we have students and people that we're actively hiring right now. So we're doing lots of interviewing as well for full time roles. And we're a startup, so we're super casual. People wear pretty much whatever they want to work. So this goes along with the research aspect. If you're interviewing at a startup, like probably don't wear a full suit to your interview. Obviously, it won't work strongly to your disadvantage, but you want to know that you're going to be comfortable in the environment. Like when people come in wearing full head to toe suits, carrying a briefcase, and they come into our office, we're all wearing like jeans and a t-shirt. You stand out a little bit, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, always overdress if you're not sure, But if you're going into a startup, maybe check out, maybe you can find, I'm serious when I say professional stalker, maybe you can find some pictures of the company on Facebook or Instagram and say, hey, like maybe I'll just wear like a suit coat and a nice pair of pants. Like I'm not going to go full suit and tie because it seems like that's really not the vibe of the office.
Interesting. So you had to do the research just for your attire. That's so
Yeah,
funny.
interviewing is not easy.
It's not easy at all. And many people, I'll backtrack a little bit.
hmm
Just to get to the interview, you have to have the standard resume and sending a cover letter optionally for most companies. But
hmm
have you heard the story of the woman who made a super out of the box like website about herself on the Airbnb website and landed her dream job?
No, I haven't heard of that. Did she make like a listing?
Yeah, she made like a listing with all
Yeah,
of her with ideas on how she can benefit Airbnb, and it was super like
I love that.
creative and out of the box. And I think like Queen Latifah like tweeted it or something or something like that. But there's a lot of like
Awesome.
out of the box like unconventional ways to get attention from like recruiters and HR professionals. And I'm curious to know, since you guys do the standard like front door like process,
hmm
what's your opinion on like going out of the box and doing the creative idea?
Great question. I'm personally a huge fan. We've seen a bunch of things like that. There was a similar one where someone was applying for Amazon, so they made a fake Amazon page. I think, again, know your audience. I think if you're applying for a company that's open to that kind of stuff, if you're applying especially for like a digital art position or a graphic designer position, like go for it. That's the kind of stuff that will stick out. They will know that you're talented. They'll know you're creative right from the start. And that would definitely grab my attention. Now, if you're applying to be a sales rep at a huge company that's very corporate, I would say probably don't do that because it probably wouldn't make any sense.
Hmm.
But if you can do it in a way that makes sense to the company and isn't just like randomly creative, but is something that you did with the company in mind and to bring your skill set for the job you're applying for in mind, go for it. I think that that's like becoming increasingly popular and it really will catch someone's eye.
Got it. And I highly recommend it myself. But
hmm
if for those who want to stick to the more like standard and traditional route, I want to talk a little bit more about resumes and
hmm
how there's a word like or not word, but people say you can optimize your resume by switching keywords and all the little fancy like
Yeah.
stuff. But I guess what's your general like advice for resumes? Because there's so many little details that many people try to like focus on, and sometimes it can get overwhelming to like just create a simple resume.
Totally. I mean, I remember spending hours like just trying to get the period in the right spot because it kept like switching over to the next column and like there's so many little spacing issues. Um, yeah, it can be tough. I think for standard formats, I would say, again, know your audience. So you can take a standard format, but you can filter it a little bit for each place that you're applying to. So if you're interested, again, like we'll use the classic startup versus kind of more corporate atmosphere. If you are applying for a very basic job, like let's say you're applying for um, a sales role again, because there's nothing really super creative I can think of, anyways, that you could do with a normal resume. I would tailor it a little more for a startup, maybe switch up the formatting a little bit, put your header in a different place, something crazy. Um, but overall, if you're not sure what to do, then stick to a very clean looking format. And the best piece of advice is spell check it to the ultimate degree. If there, it sounds silly, but if there's one typo, like that is the thing that could potentially just like get you out of the running. And I think that's an unfortunate reality that we're trying to kind of, with our things such as like the student profile, we personally are not big fans of like that really rigid resume structure. But if you're applying to somewhere that is, like, it's best to kind
Mhm.
of play by the rules to a certain degree just to be safe.
Yeah, interesting. So you mentioned how you don't play by those rules. Can you tell us more about how like WayUp or how does companies on WayUp hire students?
Yeah, so I can't necessarily speak to the hiring process of each company because we have such a wide range, and the hiring process is pretty much out of our hands once the company chooses to contact a student. We don't get involved with, saying, oh, yes, you should definitely hire this student, not this student. We
Mhm.
kind of let them do their own thing from there on out. Um, I will say that one thing is if you are on WayUp, you must upload your resume because we have students that apply for jobs without uploading their resume. And it's just little things like that where it's like you got to just do the double check, do the run through, make sure everything's there.
Oh man, that's unfortunate. They're like,
Yeah,
why haven't I heard back from anyone?
I know. And then for us, it's like, okay, well, probably should have uploaded your resume. But we also remind students who haven't, we remind them constantly to do that.
Awesome. And in WayUp, do you have a cover letter like you can upload to it, or is that like totally not part of like your process?
That is something we're working on. Again, cover letters are so specific to the job and the company that you're applying to, but it's also one of the most annoying parts about applying for jobs because what we like about our site is that you can upload everything and it saves. So you're not constantly uploading your resume every time you apply to something. You're not constantly entering, your date of birth, your address, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
So we're definitely thinking about adding an area where you can upload maybe just like a basic cover letter and then from there kind of tailor each paragraph to each company.
Interesting. So for those listening who want to apply for jobs and not necessarily on WayUp, but on other sites like I'm just Monster or Career Builder or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
would you even recommend like if it's optional, would you even recommend putting a cover letter in if it's like that much of a hassle to like tailor everything and get everything all perfect for the company?
I think so because I think the issue that we were just chatting about kind of with resumes is that you really don't have a lot of space and it's really supposed to be kind of, the one page rule and all of that. And so the cover letter, even if it's optional, that's a place for you to kind of expand on maybe some of the really cool things you did. So if you were a manager, if you made your way up from like entry level
Way up.
employee, there you go. I promise that wasn't on purpose. But if you went from being an entry level to a manager or something, and you're not going to explain why or how that happened in your resume, but your cover letter could be a really great place to throw in a few sentences of what specifically you did to get there and how that applies to the position that you're applying to now. So I think it never hurts. And honestly, it can only really work to your benefit.
Got it. Got it. I like it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so far we have the resume, we have the cover letter. Is there anything else that we should have that's recommended to have before we apply for jobs, essentially?
Let's see. I think just again making sure everything you've looked over it, you've had someone else look over it, and it is just absolutely perfect before you feel comfortable kind of shipping it out.
Awesome. Well, I'm just curious because most people are like skeptical of using job boards like monster.com or career builder just because they never see any results.
Mm-hmm.
So if WayUp didn't exist, what do you think would be the best route for young people to take on their job search? Like if, for example, WayUp wasn't here.
Well, I would say that some students should think of the idea for WayUp and then create it. No, I think that it's really tough. Finding a job, finding an internship is really, really hard, especially if your school's career centers maybe aren't the best, which was definitely true for my experience. So let's see, if WayUp didn't exist, I would say, again, I can't stress the importance of making connections and keeping your pipelines open. Go to networking events. Networking events work for a reason, they exist for a reason, and go out and talk to everybody. Um, be friendly, ask questions, keep in contact with those people. Um, and this is my favorite bit of advice. And this is something that our CEO, Liz, tells every student to do. And she actually challenged our entire team to do it too. And we
Mhm.
did. If you're interested in a certain industry, pick a person in that industry that you absolutely admire, that is crushing it, that has been successful, and that is in your area. And by area, I mean where you live. Um, and cold email them, and it's a risk and actually it works. If you cold email that person with a really personalized email, I mean, there's a shot that they will absolutely never answer and they might not even ever read it. But if they do, that person could open so many doors for you. Let's see, we did it when we had 6 people on our team. 6 people blindly, completely cold emailed their kind of dream mentors in their industry, and 3 out of the 6 got responses and met with those people, and those people connected them to a huge network of other people.
So
um,
sweet.
yeah, so that would be my like most unique piece of advice probably because it does work, and if it doesn't, you know what's the harm? You send an email.
Yeah. I love that because whenever I'm curious about any job or any position, I try to find someone who's been in been in those shoes before, and I just cold email them and ask them for advice or about anything actually.
Yeah, exactly, and that person, you never know what doors those people will open for you.
Interesting. So for those who are new to like cold emailing, they never done this before.
Hmm.
What exactly should they put in their cold email? Should they ask for advice? Should they ask for coffee? Should they ask for an informational
Yeah,
interview?
great question.
All three?
A combination. If the person is up for getting coffee, I think that is like the most special thing in the world. If you could actually meet with them in person, I would say I would throw that in there, and I would say that you're looking for advice. People are much more willing overall to give you advice. People love if someone's passionate and good at their job, they are so willing to talk about it, especially to a young college student or recent graduate who's looking to get into the field.
Mhm.
You'll get a much better response if you say that rather than like, hey, I'm looking for a job or something like that. You say, again, be a professional stalker. If you say, hey, I really admired A, B, and C when you did XYZ. I'm looking to do blank. I am just such a huge fan, and I would love to pick your brain about like how you got to where you are today. I know it's a shot in the dark, but I too like. I'm serious when I say stalk them. If they like love bagels, then put somewhere in your email like it's so crazy. Like I love bagels too, and I would appreciate any chance whether you could grab coffee or even just talk on the phone. Like all the best, blank.
That's a great template, and I'm not counting, but I counted a professional stalker like 5 times today.
After I said don't quote me, then I kept talking about it. But it seriously does. Like putting that effort into it and having that connection with someone is so important.
hmm In the startup world, there's a quote that says like, when you ask for money, you get advice, and when you ask for advice, you get money.
Exactly.
So that kind of translates into the job seeking world.
Totally. If I mean, think about it. If someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I think what you've been doing is great. Could you, like, hey, Tam, I think that your podcast is great. I think that your advice website is great. Like, how did you get to this place?" Rather than someone saying, "Hey, I'd like an internship. Do you know anyone?"
I've had both happen to me before,
Yeah.
and I'm sure
And
it
which
probably
are you
happened to
more
you
likely
too.
to respond to?
The one that compliments and understands what I'm doing first.
Exactly.
Um, Interesting. So we covered a lot. So resumes, cover letters, interviewing. I would love to know some more like mistakes. You said you had some funny stories on college students like applying for jobs and doing silly mistakes. I would love to just share it out with
We could do a
the
whole
listeners.
episode on that.
How about like, should me share like one or two memorable ones that happened to you recently?
Totally. So yeah, just a little bit of background. We hire brand ambassadors for WayUp all across the country, and we're looking to have about 1,300 this semester,
Wow,
which means
1,300?
yes,
Insane.
yes. So that means we're predicted to interview about 5,000 college students. Um,
That's like an army.
it is a mini army, and within those 5,000, that's a lot of interviews. And
Mhm.
we have some absolute gems and some great rock stars. And in that mix, there's also people who I just think don't um, understand that, like, in an interview, there's another person on the end of the line. And even though you're in college and haven't had the experience with like professional emailing or just like speaking to an adult in general, besides your parents or your professor, which is totally normal. I mean, if you're a freshman or even a junior in college, like you may have not had that experience before. So
Mhm.
I would just say like do a quick back yourself type of deal. Like use formal hellos, use punctuation, use capitalization. Like it sounds silly and kind of belittling to say these, but it is crazy to me how many kind of correspondences we have where students will email canceling their interview last minute with an email, hey, can't do it today, bye, or something like that. And it's like it's mind blowing. And we're forgiving. We understand that like you might just not know, but like always just put your best foot forward again and kind of be polite. And then if you have an interview scheduled, this is my favorite story, and we were chatting about it right before we were on air. But I called a student once, and he was very, very nervous on the phone and kind of wanted to get off the phone as quickly as possible with me. And I could hear tons of noise in the background. So I was like, hey, if this is not a good time, we can reschedule. La la la. Granted, I sent him a few reminder emails about his interview right beforehand, and he said, "Yeah, that would be I'm actually hosting an event at my house right now. Could we reschedule?" And then I ended up speaking on the phone with him still, and he ended up admitting that it was MLK Day, so they didn't have school. And he ended up admitting that he was actually at a huge frat party and he couldn't talk on the phone.
He admitted that to you?
He finally admitted it because I kept being like, because he said at first he wanted to do the interview, then he said, actually, can we reschedule? I'm hosting some people at my home, and then finally he just came clean. And I said, listen, if I were in college right now, I'd do the same thing. We'll reschedule. But it was just funny that he picked up and still had planned to have an interview while he was throwing a keg party, essentially.
That's so funny. And I was just laughing while I was reading I was reading that blog post that you wrote about that. It was so
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious?"
I
So,
know. It's just kind of like little common sense things that you would hope students would have under their belts, but it's just possible that they've never had been in this situation before. So I would say just like remember who you're talking to. Remember if you're applying for a job, it's a real job that you should take seriously. So always come into things taking it seriously.
yeah, well, just knowing this, you talk about all these little mistakes about not capitalizing your sentences or saying hello in the email.
Hmm.
I guess what attracts employers to hire these college students who seem to have most of them, what it sounds like, or maybe like half of them, seem to not like know the basic professional like structure yet. I guess how like why do employers want to hire college students, and how can students like just get more professional, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's something we try to address like in our blog and through talking to people like you who give great advice like this is it's I think a lot of it has to do with social media and I feel old even just saying that, but people are so used to like sending a quick text or Snapchat or whatever it is where like none of those rules apply. Like people don't even use vowels anymore. So I think it's easy to be like, oh, what's the difference between shooting an email to someone and sending a text to my friend? Like, same language. Um, but I will say that I think that employers probably aren't their top candidates. If you're not taking the time to kind of craft your emails correctly and to have just kind of basic communication skills, then I think that's working to your disadvantage. I mean, certainly the students that we hire and students that I've spoken to that have been hired from other companies, I mean, those are the students that have done their research, that have made the effort to kind of come
Mhm.
across as while you might be young and in college, you've come across as a hardworking professional who's excited to get started. And so that's what shines through again. So I think that the students that aren't taking the time to do that probably aren't getting hired as much as they could be.
Mhm. Well, awesome. Well, Nina, you have brought so much value onto this podcast episode. I just want to thank you for your time and just being here. This is really, really awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And we love what you're doing. And we are a constant fan of your blog as well.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you guys support us and I support you, bringing more people to Way Up. And where can people find you and Way Up?
Yeah, so I work on the student side on the marketing team. So if anyone has any questions about how to use it as a student, they can definitely email me at nina@wayup.com. Otherwise, the website's just wayup.com and it takes about 2 seconds to sign up. So if you're a college student or a recent grad, definitely check us out.
Awesome. And are you hiring people? Because maybe someone listening might want a job from you guys.
Well, if you're in college, we are hiring like crazy for our brand ambassadors. So definitely check that out. And we are hiring for full-time positions as well. We're hiring across all different departments. So if you go to our Join Us page on our website, you'll see all the open positions.
All right, awesome. So we covered so much today, Nina.
We did.
Is there anything that I might have missed that I might not have asked you that you really wanted to talk about just to help young people get jobs, or did we just cover the surface already?
I think we covered the surface of so many great areas. I would say the biggest takeaway, if I were listening, would be about going out there, getting connections, and about trying new things. I really think the idea of having one set career path when you're this young, you really have to test things out at first. So that's why it's great to kind of get a few different things under your belt really early on.
All right, Nina from Way Up, thank you so, so much. I really appreciate this.
Yep, great to be here. Thanks, Tam.
And there you have it. That was Nina Board from Way Up at wayup.com. And they are hiring. So if you want to work for them, definitely send them your resume and fill out that questionnaire that they have on their website. And I'm very glad that Nina came on. She talked a lot about resumes, cover letters, interviewing. And I hope that with this knowledge, you actually take it and go out and get a job. Actually go out and use what you've learned, because what's the point of learning all this when it's all going to be irrelevant if you don't actually take it and take action. So she said one thing about networking, which I want to plug my own book in. No, you don't have to buy it on Amazon. It's free on my website at outsideoftheclassroom.com. But the thing I don't like about free stuff is that when you get something for free, you don't value it as much. And I hope that if you do get it for free on my website, that you put value in it, because it's actually very, very good. And I've gotten some great feedback. Like every single day, people messaging me about how impactful and how simple it was to network, to connect with people, to reach out to mentors who you don't even know and they don't know you, but you're just curious and passionate about whatever you want to learn. So check it out, How to Network, on my website, outsideoftheclassroom.com. And all the show notes is going to be online as well at outsideoftheclassroom.com/Nina, where you can find all the show notes, the resources we talked about today, and to find out more about WayUp. WayUp is actually a really great company. I didn't work for them, but I was a partner with them as they were launching. They were formerly called Campus Job, but I was helping them out with marketing, and they helped me out with some stuff. And I'm just very glad that I'm able to talk to Nina, because I've been emailing her back and forth, and I'm very glad. I'm very grateful that she came on, and I'm very grateful for you. So thanks for listening. I'm really, really happy with all the progress that I've been making with this. I guess you can call it movement, with Outside of the Classroom. And I'm very thankful that you're here with me listening to this. Hopefully you're gaining out of this. If there's any feedback that you want to give to me, just tweet me, send me an email or a Facebook message just saying, hey, your show sucks, or hey, Tam, your show's good, and then give me 3 reasons why, or something like that. If you tell me it sucks, at least give me like something to improve on, you know? I got an Amazon review, and it was 3 stars, and the review was 3 words. It was okay. I was like, dude, actually, it was 2 stars, and it was okay. I was like, dude, come on, are you serious? But there's always gonna be one person out of like 1,000 people who actually do that kind of stuff. So, yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.